Be strong.
How are you today? Hope you're doing all right. So, our lesson for week 6 to 8, most essential learning competencies in English 6 for second quarter, is about the sources of information. But before that, I would like to request everyone, for those who are not able to subscribe yet, please subscribe before we start. And also, there is a notification bell in there. You have to pause it for the updates, for more updates about my videos in English 6. Our objective is the child should be able to compare and contrast contents of materials viewed from sources of information, this print, online, and broadcast. As a learner, you are used to accomplishing homework and research works given to you by your teachers. Wanting to fully understand these learning activities, you work on finding more information from various sources of materials. The gather details from various sources, support your answers, and maximize your understanding of the lesson. To achieve this, you must be aware as to where to find information and how to access or use various materials or sources. Also, the relevance and credibility of the sources of information you use must also be considered. Let us examine the pictures below. Look at the pictures there from A, B, C to D. What sources do you use in gathering information for your assignment and other school activities? That's the question. For learning task 1, you have to identify the material to be used in its situation below. You have to classify each as to print, broadcast, or online. You're going to do this on your answer sheets. First one, number 1, Maita needs to watch news on television. Number 2, Mrs. De Chavez used the chart which she bought from the local bookshop in explaining the water cycle. Number 3, Alex tours around Tayaba City using the interactive map installed in his cell phone. Number 4, the pupils watch available videos online on gardening. And number 5, my parents love to read newspapers every morning. So let us answer. We're going to classify that if it is print, broadcast, or online. Now, let us start. Let us start with number 1. Okay? If your answer in number 1, if your answer in number 1 is If your answer in number 1 is broadcast, you are right. For number 2, the answer for number 2 is print. Good. And number 3, online. Very good. Number 4, online. And number 5 is print. Sources of information. Print materials consist of all written, printed materials. Examples of these resources are printed versions of textbooks, workbooks, reference books, magazines, newspapers, and journals. These are print materials. Again, examples for these are textbooks, workbooks, reference books, magazines, newspapers, and journals. For broadcast materials, the resources transmitted to public through radio and television, public service announcement, daily news, weather forecasts, interviews, documentaries, comedies, movies, sports, and advertisement, commercials are typical examples of broadcast materials. Online materials are learning resources that are made available online. The common examples of online resources are blogs or vlogs, the podcasts, audiobooks, ebooks, videos, mobile apps, web pages, social media, emails, electronic mails. These are the examples of online materials. In accessing online materials, take note to be careful and vigilant with the authorship, credibility, and authenticity of Internet documents since some sources may contain unverified information. With the use of various sources of information, you may now compare and contrast the information viewed from print, broadcast, and online platforms. The skills on comparing and contrasting are necessary in enriching your knowledge and finding reliable and credible sources of information. For Learning Task 2, presented below are various sources of information. Identify which source of information does not belong to its group. So write your answers on your notebook or on your answer sheets. Then after eliminating the materials which does not belong to its group, you classify the three remaining materials as to print, online, or broadcast materials. Okay, first one, textbooks, workbooks, reference books, daily TV news. Second, TV documentaries, ebook, radio, comedies, TV commercial. Third, blogs, vlogs or written diary, videos, web pages. Fourth, printed magazines, printed newspapers, social media, printed journals. Fifth, email, book, ebook, or mobile apps. And for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the classification of materials. Okay, I'll give you time to answer that one. So again, you have to, what will you do? You have to identify the sources, which source of information does not belong to its group. Then you're going to write your answer in your answer sheet. Then after eliminating the material which does not belong to the group, you have to classify the three remaining materials as to print, online, or broadcast materials. So, now, let us answer Learning Task 2. Task 2, the correct answer there, the correct answer in here is for Learning Task 2, number 1 is daily. Number 1 is daily textbook, workbooks, reference books, and daily TV news. So the answer here for number 1 is daily TV news. For number 2, ebooks, ebook. And number 3, it's written diary. Number 4 it's social media. Number 5, it's book. And for classification of materials, it should be number 6, print, 7, broadcast, 8, online, 9, print, and 10, online. Okay, then for learning task 3, in your notebook you have to classify the materials below as to print, broadcast, online, or use the table provided. So these are the following words that you have to identify. You have to classify them according to print, broadcast, and online. So these are the words: printed magazines, TikTok, printed dictionary, websites, TV documentaries, TV news, TV movies, fiction books, blogs, online journals, radio news, and ebooks. So you have to classify them for their correct classification. If it is from print materials, broadcast materials, or online materials. So, again, you have to classify the materials as print, broadcast, and online. Okay, I'll give you time to answer. Let me see. Okay, let me see. Are you ready? Okay. For print materials, if your answers here are printed magazines, printed dictionary, and fiction books, you are right. Well done. And if your answer for broadcast materials are TV documentaries, TV news, TV movies, and radio news, your answers also are correct. And for online materials, what are the online materials? Of course, websites, blogs, ebooks, online journals, and TikTok. Okay, TikTok. So, if you got it right, if your answers are correct, well done. Okay? You really understand the lesson. Now for task. For learning task 4, you have to read the passage below on chemical and physical changes, then compare and contrast chemical changes and physical changes by arranging the information using the graphic organizer below. So identify the differences and similarities to this on your worksheet. So chemical and physical changes. Any matter can be changed into two ways, chemically and physically. Physical changes do not change the makeup or identity of the matter. For example, clay will bend or flatten if squeezed, but it will still be clay. Molding the clay to change the shape is a physical change and does not change the matter's identity. Meanwhile, chemical changes turn the matter into a new kind of matter with different properties. For example, a burnt paper becomes ash and will never be turned back to paper again. The difference between them is that physical changes are temporary or only last for a little while chemical changes are permanent, which means they are irreversible. Physical and chemical changes both affect the state of matter. So these are the Venn diagram that you're going to answer. So for that, You have to identify the similarities and their similarities and their differences for chemical chains and physical chains. Okay, so it's your turn to answer this one. This is for learning task 4. Okay, so you have to again, you had to know the similarities and their differences as well. Okay, now let's proceed to learning task 5. You have to compare and contrast TV, radio, or printed advertisements of two shampoos you are familiar with using a Venn diagram. Note down their similarities and differences, then write a paragraph explaining the content of the said diagram. Do this in your notebook or on your answer sheets. Be guided by the rubric below. So there is a given rubric there. So for example, we have this shampoo number 1, Vantine, and shampoo number 2, L'Oreal. So we're going to have this one, the similarities of these two shampoos. Okay, for example, both make your hair strong and shiny. How about their differences? For shampoo number 1, which is Vantine, it's good for dry and frizzy hair. Renews your hair. And for shampoo number 2 is L'Oreal. It can help with root lifting, tackling, and dandruff and nourishing your hair. So that's it. Again, this is an example of learning task number 5. So we state about these similarities and their differences for shampoo number 1 and shampoo number 2. Okay. The similarities between shampoo number 1, which is Vantine, and shampoo number 2, for Yale, both make your hair strong and shiny. Their differences: Vantine shampoo number 1 is good for dry and frizzy hair. It helps renew the hair, whereas L'Oreal shampoo number 2, it helps with root lifting, tackling dandruff, and nourishing the hair. Okay, this is the example of that task. Okay, how about the rubric? These are the features of the rubric. Um, 1 is for poor, 2 satisfactory, 3 very satisfactory, 4 excellent. And the features there, the content, the similarities and differences, and the mechanics. If it is excellent, of course, for the content, the paragraph comprehensively and clearly communicates the similarities and differences. And the paragraph is free from distracting spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors. So for the excellent. How about for very satisfactory? The paragraph communicates the the similarities and differences, and the mechanics are the paragraph has few spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors, allowing the reader to clearly follow the ideas. And for satisfactory, for the content, for similarities and differences, the paragraph is limited in communicating the similarities and differences. Length is not adequate for development, and for the mechanics, the paragraph has a number of errors in spelling, punctuation, and grammar. The text is still quite understandable. So that's it. Let's continue to learning task number 6. Using any available Using any available sources, search for information about cats and dogs as pets. Identify which of the two is considered as the best pet. Note down the details of the list down. Note down the details and list down the similarities and differences using the graphic organizer below. Then write a paragraph explaining the content of the diagram. Do this in your worksheets or in your notebook. Be guided by the rubric below. So the same as task, the given task there, the given example of task. So the same rubric in writing a paragraph. The features are 1 for poor, 2 for satisfactory, 3 for very satisfactory, 4 for excellent, and the mechanics as well. Same. For learning task number 7, you have to compare and contrast two laundry detergents from TV, radio, or printed advertisement. Note down the details and list down their similarities and differences. Use your chosen graphic organizer, then write a paragraph employing the comparison and contrast style. Use appropriate signal words. Write your paragraph on your answer sheet. So, for example, here, as you can see, there are two boxes there. So the first question, the first box will answer, how are they alike? And the second box, how are they different? Okay. Then for example, for Hide and Ariel detergents, um, clean and remove stains, plant-based liquid laundry, and woodsy smelling laundry detergent. So how about their differences? How are they different? Hide consists of super concentrated detergent, extra stain fighter, and color protector, best plant-based liquid, and best woody smelling laundry detergent, while Ariel, slightly more expensive, slightly plant-based liquid, and contains enzymes for good stain. Okay, that's all for that lesson. Thank you very much and God bless us all. See you again next video. Bye bye. Thank you so much, kids.